Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome to our panel discussion on the exciting topic of when we break down silos, we build ecosystems. A very large topic for just 30 minutes, but we've got some fabulous panelists here to take us through their thoughts on the topic. My name is Sarah Ellenson. I lead the FinTech and Payments Strategy and Transactions practice in the United States, and I'm one of our diversity and inclusion leaders within the US firm at EY. I work with emerging companies as they're trying to scale and grow. I work with investors who are trying to provide capital into those companies, and then the incumbent financial institutions. So an ecosystem view of startups working in financial services. I'm excited to have an all-female panel here today with me to share their different views and insights on this topic. They all come from different ecosystems and all have one thing in common, which is working together, breaking down silos, and achieving gender parity through innovation, technology, and frankly, just doing the right thing in the world and in their businesses. So let me just go around the ring, go around the horn here and have each of the panelists introduce themselves. I'll start with Caro. Caro, would you mind giving a brief introduction?
Yeah, sure. I am part of EY. I am part of the forensic and integrity team. I am based in Germany, in Frankfurt. I am here in the office at the moment in Eschborn, but I am from Argentina. I am a certified public accountant by profession, but I also a global leader here in technology. So I am the forensic technology global operation leader, and super happy to be here.
Thanks, Caro. And Joanna, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Joanna Bixel, and I'm the founder and CEO of Kasha. So I'm excited to be on this panel with EY women. My background, I have a computer science degree. I grew up in Canada. I now live in Kenya, but I've lived in various areas around the world. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. And lastly, Priyam.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Priyam Lahiri. I'm also part of EY. I work in our strategy and transaction side of the business. And what I focus on really is how can we use technology in helping our clients identify opportunities. I'm originally from India, but now live in gloomy/sunny London. My background has always been, I've always been very excited about technology. So it's really an interesting opportunity today to be with all of you and discuss this topic.
Thank you. So we have many continents represented here today, and we certainly have technology represented today. So we're going to talk about ecosystems, breaking down silos and creating ecosystems. My father is a biologist, and so when I hear that word ecosystem, I have a very scientific view of what that means. And so for me, that's around sort of an environment that brings both living and non-living elements together to be functioning, right? So it's all of the elements that are required for a fully functioning and a well-functioning habitat. So with that in mind, in the business world and the worlds in which you're occupying, maybe I'll go around the horn again and just ask for examples of how an ecosystem has worked for you, how you helped to create, or how you're serving as part of an ecosystem. And I'll go around in the same order that I went around before. We'll start with Caro, then Joanna, and then Priyam. So Caro, you wouldn't mind kicking that off. Your thoughts around ecosystems.
Yeah, sure. So I came to EY 6 years ago, but before that, I founded a startup focused on technology. And then I sold this startup to EY, and this is how I came to the firm. And my startup focused back then in a newly released technology. And of course, for that type of technology, it was key to be close to the software manufacturer, but also to other companies that were investing in this type of technology. So being part of this new technology ecosystem was key for us to survive. And one example that I can give you that was a really success story and somehow a funny way to success for us the software manufacturer was experiencing a very rapid success of their new technology, and they needed to train internal people, bring them up to speed, and did not have the time to really create trainings. So, of course, we were agile, we were small, we were eager to do business, so they hired us to build these trainings. And this helped our team members to get trained because the technology was so new that there were no trainings available, neither for partners like us trying to invest in this technology. So building the training for the software manufacturer helped us getting trained ourselves, and this is how we became one of the leaders in this technology around the globe. So for us, it was a great, great opportunity.
So a contribution to the ecosystem, but also you were pulling out of it as well, right? So it's that the give and take.
Yes.
Great. Okay, let's let Joanna. How about you?
Sure. So when I founded Kasha about 4.5 years ago, my background's in technology, and I was working in emerging markets across East and West Africa and South Asia. And really, there's generally across the world a gap in the market in terms of meeting the needs of women. And so Kasha was really started to be able to cater for that gap in the market, because women are the most influential consumer and have a lot of health needs. And so today, Kasha is an e-commerce platform optimized for women's health and self-care, operating in Rwanda and Kenya, built to scale across emerging markets. And one of the ecosystem examples I can think about is, early on in our first year, we were introduced to this great program called Transform, and it's actually why I'm on this panel today. So Transform is a unique partnership really focused on supporting purpose-driven businesses, partnering Unilever, FCDO, EY, and they were really looking to how do we bring business and private sector and public sector together to really make impact on these SDGs and just impact on lives around the world. And they found Kasha, us as we were just in our early stages, and they supported us with non-dilutive capital, access to expertise, and absolutely were a critical part of our growth story. So now we're continuing to grow and expand, and I think that program itself is a great example of just that ecosystem coming together.
That's great. And what we're going to talk, I think we'll hit on a little bit later, sort of the role of government, NGO, regulation, all those elements in a well-functioning ecosystem as well. So thank you for sort of introducing some of those themes in there. Priyam, how about you?
I think, for us being on the advisor side of things and watching this ecosystem, sometimes from a distance and sometimes being at the center of it, I work in a team where we try to create data-driven platforms in which we can help our clients unlock their growth opportunities. So when, having observed this in multiple organizations, when we started our own innovation team, I think one thing front and center of building our ecosystem was to making sure that men and women are equally a part of this conversation. Because what we've observed from different corporates or startups or investor side of things, that as you need both men and women equally to be a part of this conversation, because ultimately your customers are men and women. So when we hired for a team, I think one of the things we consciously tried to build our ecosystem on was a conscious view on how we were recruiting. So our team has been about 50% men, 50% women, which gives us the advantage of having different types of viewpoints, different types of perspectives. And I hope that's helping us build a stronger ecosystem as well as a stronger product that we can take to market. And I think one of the things that, apart from my own team that I work in, being an advisor and looking at lots of different ecosystems, whether it's the startup world or the investor world, I think one of the things where I've seen ecosystems really work well is where, apart from, all the organizations today are signing up for SDGs or signing up for goals, but where they actually have made systematic change and not just a tick box exercise to really, really create change and bring that gender parity into their structure. I think that's one of the most fundamental things about where I've seen ecosystems really thrive is when you have that infrastructure below to actually enable that.
So that sounds easy on paper, hard to do, right? And you've all described successes, right? And in how you've helped to build, how you've benefited from ecosystems. But it's not easy, right? There are challenges in putting this together and getting the best out of and helping to create the most sort of fertile ecosystem for what you're trying to accomplish. Let's talk about some of those challenges. And Joanna, maybe we'll start with you. As an emerging company, what's hard to do in terms of working within ecosystems and trying to build them?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm glad that gender is coming to the forefront, because I think the data is showing us some really interesting views on that across every single level of the ecosystem. I think it's, for years now, over 800 women are dying every day from preventable causes because they don't have things for pregnancy, childbirth, for family planning. That's a really important data point. 4% of venture capital goes to women, 2% if the women are co-founders. That's an interesting data point. And then we just track that all the way across. And I think as a woman, it's hard to look at it from another perspective, right? Because I'm just going through the experience. But so I'm an optimist, and there's many challenges. There's challenges, I'd say, for every business across fundraising and growing and scaling and partnerships and various aspects. But I do think things are changing. And I see more and more focus on looking at the numbers saying, wow, women-led businesses perform better. And look at women drive 80% of consumer purchases globally. Huge numbers and opportunities as well that I think we're starting to look at. So it's both a positive and a negative. It gives us an opportunity.
Yeah, the funding question is a really interesting one, and has gotten much more attention in the last couple of years, both in terms of gender and racially and ethnically diverse founders, right? And ensuring that the populations that are benefiting from the ideas and the startups that are being created are also getting the funding to create that. So really critical element of a well-functioning ecosystem. Caro, maybe I'll shift to you, and same question, but maybe a different angle. You were an entrepreneur, had a startup that had a really great growth trajectory to the point where you attracted the attention of a large global professional services firm in EY. To acquire your business. Can you talk about sort of the differences or challenges of working in one environment versus the other?
Yeah, so it was an interesting challenge coming from your own startup, where the culture is very dynamic, and coming to a big firm where silo working is more common, which is typical for large organizations, or for many large organizations. People are put into functions, into responsibilities, and then soon become silo working, and then soon become silo minds, and then it's really not easy to really be part of ecosystem. So I was coming from an ecosystem, and I came to EY, and it was a challenge to be part of ecosystems in general, and also quick enough. So things were also in a totally different pace. So it was a big challenge. EY has done a lot to really adapt the culture, and I was glad to be part, and I am glad to still be part, because something that I promised to myself is that I will not change my soul when I came to EY. So I continue being the same one that I was before, and basically this is what I did together with my team. So we were working, doing cooperation, aiming that the company will go there. And I am super glad that the company did. So it was hard in many moments, but at the end, I think we are getting there. So I learned a lot in the meantime, so it was good.
Thanks for that. I hear a lot in sort of my day-to-day about something called acqui-hire, right? Where large companies will, who can't get access to the talent that they are trying to get access to organically, or to the parts of the ecosystem they can't get access to. And so we'll acquire a company that brings that talent. And it's really critical. The cultural aspects of that are really critical, right? It's in some cases, there can be tissue rejection where it just, the two cultures are just not going to work together. And so having that knowledge about the challenges at the outset and working to, as you said, Carol, not to lose your soul, right? You need to continue to operate in the ways that made you successful, but now within a different environment. And how can both get the best of that? So really, thank you for that critical comments. Priyam, how about you? You've got a different perspective on this, I think.
Yeah, I think what Carol and Joanna touched upon, I think two fundamental pillars of the ecosystem. One is on the investment side of things, and one is on the corporate or startup side of things. I think the third element where I see there's a big challenge in ecosystem is governments and regulations. Now, I come from India, where STEM is a very go-to subject in high school. It's almost like a societal norm that if you're slightly intelligent, you go do STEM. So the stats are that almost 70% graduates in India come out with STEM degrees. However, out of that graduate population, within women, 60% fall out of the workforce straight after graduation because they go on, get married, have children, etc. So they fall out of the workforce. So what are governments and regulatory bodies going to do to ensure that that talent that they're developing in schools, in universities, actually lands to that workforce, and the STEM subjects that they're studying at school actually translates into business propositions? And it's quite interesting to see now, even countries like UAE on Sunday just launched that they need to have at least one woman in the board, which is a step, but at least a step in the right direction. So I think, the big challenge is, unless at the grassroots level, we get access of technology to women, to girls, they may not ever see the side of the world that we're talking about. Like Joanna's talking about her e-commerce startup. If people don't have access to technology, they're going to be out of that experience. So I think there's a big responsibilities on governments, legislation bodies to bring something that can enforce people to have that gender equality in terms of access to technology.
Yeah, access being critical. Joanna, anything you would add to that, just in terms of sort of the role of technology in gender parity?
Sure. I think technology is a game changer, absolutely, but it's not necessarily technology that in the way we, use in developed markets, right? Kasha, for example, when we look at our customer base, 65% of our customers are low income and rural customers ordering using a basic mobile phone on a technology that's not available in developed markets, USSD. So it's just not exposed to the public. So I think there's, right now there are truly billions of people using technology to do various things to support their lives. So can we look at these accessible technologies and be able to ensure that we are serving unique needs for people, right? So it's open to everyone, but in understanding that people do have unique needs, and that's how you drive inclusiveness, by really being able to support those many needs. So I do think technology, and as well back to data, technology drives data, technology drives visibility, and that's the way I think we can really measure progress.
Thank you. Carol, any points on this, comments on this point?
Yeah, so my way into technology is different than Joanna's, because I, by education, do not come from technology. But I wanted to work in technology, and I think there are different perspectives in which you can cooperate in the technology and innovation arena. And what helped me a lot is being curious about other disciplines. So I really try to understand other disciplines, though I am coming from an accounting and I also study law. So I really come from a different discipline than technology. But I'm really curious to understand how they work. I try to understand the different personalities, because also different disciplines also try different personalities, and putting together these teams and making them successful beyond the gender parities, I think not an easy task. I really like solving problems, which is good in any industry anyway. So so then it was good for technology as well. Yeah, so I really like working in technology. I really like seeing how women are going to be more and more important in technology in the next decade.
So that's a great segue to the next question I wanted to ask. And you've all come to technology in different ways, different paths, and you're using technology in different ways today in what you're doing. The next generation of young girls, right, who are faced with a world that is increasingly connected throughout the world in different ways, but increasingly, no matter where you are, more connectivity to technology. What advice would you give them to be more of a participant in the future of how technology is embraced and used, and as a way to bring together a more inclusive world? Who wants to go first on that very big topic?
I'm happy to go first. I think, similar to Carol, I did not do STEM in my high school degree, as it was very disappointing to the whole society. I didn't take STEM, but I did. I landed up in a technology job. I think to young girls, I would say, today technology is not just about some guys in a basement wearing black hoodies and coding away. Today, technology is in everything we do. And this generation has woken up, opened their eyes in front of technology, perhaps. So I think I would tell young girls, find what interests you. To Carol's point, if you're a curious person, what interests you? It's fashion, it's clothes, it's whatever it might be. It could even be dating for that perspective. Bumble just got listed. What interests you, and you will find a way of learning technology in that aspect, and also reach out to people. Technology is a kind of field that is still evolving, and like any technology would be, there are new jobs that are being created every second. So reach out to people, reach out to women, reach out to men in this field, understand the technology. The beauty of this field is that you can create something for yourself. It's not as standard as you need to do a law degree and then you become a lawyer. If you have the appetite of curiosity, you will find a place for yourself in this field.
Great.
I'd like to just
how about you?
I'd love to build on that. So I mean, I agree. My advice would be really listen to your gut and trust your gut. And that's hard at the beginning because you don't, you're still learning a lot from others, you're figuring out what's the right path. But, I wanted to be a doctor, took my first computer science 101 class, and I loved it. And so try different things, see what sticks. I became a software engineer, and I didn't want to spend every day in a room just coding. After a while, I'm like, I want to see how people are using this. And so I actually ended up changing my job, moving more into more like an architecture and product design. And then I said, well, how does this business make money? So then I started moving into more of the business and actually started running technology-enabled businesses. And then it's just following a thread of interest. And I was lucky. I got to do that all at Microsoft, where I had a corporate career before I started a startup. But really, now when I look back, I'm really grateful that I did just follow my thread of interest and believe in my gut and believe in what I believe is the right next step to take.
Right. Thank you. And Kara, you talked a little bit about curiosity before, but anything else you would add to that?
Yeah, no, I think following what Joanna was saying, I think it's important to build the confidence that you can cooperate from the perspective that you come, like in my case, coming not from technology, but I think I do a good cooperation to the community here. And I think also something that I could suggest is that to make a plan, a long-term plan. I also see the young generations are a little bit more measuring the results sometimes from the meeting that happened yesterday. And if the meeting did not go well, then this looks like the end of your career. And I think having this long perspective, make a plan. Things do not go well every day, all the time. But if you have a plan, you are calm with yourself because you know that whatever happened bad yesterday, well, this was part of learning for tomorrow, and you really focus your energy on the long-term plan. And I think this is something that is important. I think we learn it. I mean, I work already for 30 years because in Argentina it's pretty common that you start working when you start university. So, and then I basically work with people who are today 90 years old, and they were a little bit more into the long-term perspective. So I had the possibility to work with all this generation that today are elderly and the young generation. So I can see the differences, and I think building a plan builds confidence, but also you do not freak out every time there is something that goes wrong.
So great advice. Don't freak out, right? I think there's a lot that's I think technology and the growth of technology has told us about failure, and not everything works, and learning from failure, and then just keep iterating and getting better and better. And that's the same for coding as it is for personal development.
I think, Sarah, if I can add, I think women sometimes give up a little bit too early. So I think being a little bit more resilience, it's also good. Yeah, because I think men in that sense may be a little bit more resilient by nature. And I think is really an important topic to build that and do not give up so easily and so early.
Fantastic advice. So we've had a rapid fire discussion here today with 3 really accomplished women in the field of technology. I want to thank everybody for joining in the audience. We're going to move into a Q&A session into the pavilion, where if you have further questions beyond the ones that I've been able to get out of and pose to these leaders, we'd be happy to be available to answer those questions. So thank you everybody for joining, and thank you to the panelists for providing some very inspirational words for our audience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.